Come on now. I didn't even touch it, and it came right on. Look, miracle's already happening. I just looked at it. Let's go ahead and start with the prayer request for today. Remember Martha and Roger. They're still recuperating, so make sure to keep them in your prayers. And everybody's, we got a lot of folks that's out of town, a lot of folks still traveling. And so remember those. Also, we got a lot of people with this, I don't know what it is, flu, pneumonia, something. So just make sure to keep them in your prayers. Is there anybody else before we start tonight? Okay. Okay, Melissa Winston. All righty. And a friend of mine, his name is Roger Baird. Everybody called him Roger B. He's from Sardis. Worked at the radio station back during the 70s. He and my dad went to school together at Centerpoint. He passed away New Year's Eve night. I'll be doing his funeral this weekend, so remember that family. Anybody else? We're not going to have any singing tonight, so y'all got me for the next few moments. And I want to thank you guys for being here for this first Wednesday night of the new year. And what better place to be at for the first day of the new year than at the house of God. So we've got some special visitors with us, so make them feel welcome after the service. Make sure to speak to them. And is there anything else? Any praise reports? All right. New Orleans, yes. Make sure to keep those people in your prayers. Anybody else? And obviously keep the church in your prayers for the next year. And I hope that we can get the gospel out to even more people in 2025. All right, I want to ask for Tristan to open us up in prayer, and we'll go ahead and get started. Tristan, would you do that for us, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, we are grateful for yet another year here on the planet Earth, God. God, we ask you, God, to touch everybody that's here represented tonight, God. We ask you to
And please don't lie and say you had. If you've made a New Year's resolution, raise your hand. You've made it? Okay, good. So, all right, I'm not going to ask if you kept them or not. I don't want to embarrass them. Who raised their hand? 2 people? 2? All right. Okay. What is the purpose of a New Year's resolution, and besides trying to keep it? Make better goals. Is it a starting over point? Drawing a line in the sand, saying from this point on, I'm going to do things different. What is basically New Year's resolutions? It's the top 3 or what? Lose weight. What else? Exercise. And what else? Read your Bible more, okay? Exercise, lose weight, and read your Bible more, which are outstanding New Year's resolutions. But they say that the second Friday in January has a special name, but I can't think what the name of it is. But it's basically, that's when you quit. Yeah, Quitter's Day or something. Yeah, Quit Day. So y'all still got a while. Let's start with Joshua chapter 3. And the reason, and I think this is interesting that we actually started Joshua chapter 3 on the first day of 2025. Because Joshua chapter 3 is basically a new day. You could take a line or take your ink pen or your pencil and write in the margin, new day for the children of Israel, because starting in Joshua chapter 3, everything is new. They are fixing to cross over Jordan. Egypt is in their rearview mirror. They are fixing to try to conquer the land. So everything is absolutely brand new for them. There's a song called Egypt Was Once My Home, I Was a Slave. Anybody ever heard that song? Helpless and sin did roam, love like this crowd. I know some of them have heard. Living in Canaan now. Good job. I couldn't think of the name of it. This is basically what this song is about. I'm living in Canaan now. Egypt was once my home, and the children of Israel could say that. Before salvation comes to us, before salvation came to us, we were living in Egypt. Now we have crossed over symbolically into the promised land. But this is a new day. Everything now is fresh. It is a new beginning. The Apostle Paul wrote, for all things have passed away. Behold, all things have become what? New. And the word become is continual. It is each and every day. Every day we wake up, we are new. Every day we wake up, we become new. So it is a continual becoming new. So with the children of Israel and Joshua chapter 3, everything now is going to be new, but there are instructions that are going to be given. And what is interesting to know, and you've probably already noticed this, starting in the book of Exodus and running all the way through the book of Joshua, you have a lot of instructions. And when you start with the building of the tabernacle, and the construction of the Ark of the Covenant and things like that, you have a lot, and the permanent tabernacle is what I'm talking about. You have a lot of instructions, but especially in the first few books of the Old Testament, that's why it's called the Pentateuch. It basically means the beginning of instructions. So with this, you're going to still have more instructions from God. And these instructions are going to be given to Joshua, and he's going to relay these instructions to the children of Israel. And these instructions there are a lot of instructions even before they cross over Jordan. So we're going to look at this. We might try to cover a couple of chapters tonight. I don't know. But let's start with Joshua chapter 3, verses 1. And again, thank you guys for being here. Alan said something about singing out the old, singing in the new. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Going to all-night singings? When I was a kid, my dad used to have them at Emmanuel, all-night singings, and what you'd do, you'd meet at the church about 7, you'd sing till 9, eat supper, and then sing from 10 to 12:01. I don't think we could hang that long anymore. We might sing from 7 till maybe 8, but it was singing out the old, singing in the new, and I don't think anybody has those anymore. But in Joshua chapter 3, and Joshua rose early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim and came to Jordan. Jordan is the crossing point. Jordan, on their side, they are still standing in the old land. They're still standing. They are still in the past. They're fixing to cross over into the future. They're fixing to cross over into new beginnings. And it is the same Jordan that they crossed over 40 years prior. Everything that happened the 40 years that they wandered in the wilderness is about to come to an end. You remember when they were wandering in the wilderness, their shoes did not wear out, their clothes did not wear out. They had continual manna and they had continual quail. But as soon as they're going to cross over to Jordan, the manna stops, the quail stops, shoes start wearing out, clothes start wearing out, and it's all a process now. It's of a beginning. And he and all the children of Israel, they lodged there before they passed over. So you can basically say last night, if you were going to make New Year's resolutions, you can say, I'm going to make a resolution tomorrow, and starting tomorrow, which is today, it's going to be a brand new beginning. And we talked about Quitter's Day. In the book of Joshua, God does not give them a day of quitting. In the scriptures, God does not give them a day of quitting. There is no, and this is what is so amazing about God and Jesus. In the Old Testament, God gives them instructions, and we'll look at those instructions on conquering the promised land, correct? Does he give them a plan B? There's no plan B. There's no, if this does not go right, here's what we're going to do. God does not tell them, after you get over there, if you get into Ai and you get into Jericho and you think, well, it's just too much, then we'll do this, and it's not going to be as hard. There's no plan B with God. And if you remember when Jesus Christ starts calling the disciples, he calls them and says, follow me, for I will make you fishers of men. What is plan B? There's not. So when you're looking at this, there is no Quitter's Day. This has been established back in the book of Genesis. God has established his covenant with Abraham in the book of Genesis, and now this covenant is about to come to fruition, which they are going to claim the land. And it says that they are in a place called Shittim, and they are in Jordan, and beyond Jordan, which is probably not much wider in parts than this aisle here, they can see the promised land. It is in reach. All they have to do now is obey God. God is going to tell them, you have to cross over Jordan. They have to obey God. And it says, and it came to pass after 3 days that the officers went through the host. And a lot of people will say, well, with 3 days, it is symbolic of a renewal. In the 3 days, you have 3 days Jesus Christ was in the grave. You got 3 days where Jonah was in the belly of the fish. And you can look at this 3 days. It is a time of reflection. It is going to be a time of renewal. They're sitting there for 3 days. And what they can do is when they come out of their tents each and every day, guess what the first thing they see is? There's the promised land right there. All we got to do is cross over this little part, and we get into the promised land. God's going to do the fighting for us, and we got to conquer the land, but we got to cross over first. They spend that first day, they meander around, they go back into their tents, they wake up the next day, there's the promised land. For 40 years, it is the same thing. There's the promised land, there's the promised land. But it tells them, it says, and it came to pass after 3 days that the officers of the host, now they're going to go through and look at how they do this. And this word command is all throughout the Old Testament, especially when you start studying the first 5 or 6 or 7 books of the Old Testament. That word command is continuously through there. And that word command means there's no plan B. We're going to do this. And it says, and they commanded. Now remember, all of this instruction is coming from God. All of this instruction is coming from the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they commanded the people, saying, when you see the Ark of the Covenant. I was sitting on the couch the other night. One of my favorite movies is Raiders of the Lost Ark. How many seen that? Thank goodness. What is the one thing that Indiana Jones back in 1934 is trying to find? The Ark of the Covenant, okay? In this, in verses 3, this is one of the very few times that you hear the word Ark of the Covenant starting in the book of Joshua. And it runs through 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, and all of a sudden it kind of disappears off the pages of the Bible. But the Ark of the Covenant is an actual piece of furniture, but it is also symbolic. And it is symbolic of the power of God, and everybody has probably knows something about the Ark of the Covenant. It's no bigger than most communion tables. And inside the Ark of the Covenant, you've got the commandments that was broken. You have manna, and then you have the rod of Aaron that budded. Okay, so you have those in the Ark of the Covenant. And who was the only tribe that was allowed to carry the Ark of the Covenant? Levites. They're the only ones that could carry it. Did they touch the Ark of the Covenant? They carried it with poles. They'd slide it in there and carry it, okay? And it says, when they commanded the people, saying, when you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God. Now, is it the Ark of the Covenant that is protecting the children of Israel? No. It is not them putting their trust in the Ark of the Covenant. Because you remember the Philistines had the Ark of the Covenant for several months, and it didn't do them any good. And you remember in the book of 1 Samuel when the children of Israel take the Ark of the Covenant into battle with the Philistines steal it from them. Didn't do the children of Israel any good. It is not the Ark of the Covenant that is going to bring them protection. It is not them putting faith in the Ark of the Covenant. It is them following the instructions of God. And if the instructions of God said, here's what you're going to do, you're going to go out and get a cactus. And when you see that cactus cross over Jordan, you follow it. It has nothing to do with the cactus. It has nothing to do with the Ark of the Covenant. What it is about following the instructions of God. And it says, when you see the Ark of the Covenant, the Lord your God, and the priest, the Levites bearing it, then you shall remove from your place and go after it. Not so much you go after the Ark of the Covenant, but you go after the promise of God. The Ark of the Covenant represents not only the power of God, but the Ark of the Covenant also is basically symbolic of the promise of God. And God is telling them, when you see this, when you cross over, you have to go after it. Now, they could have made a conscious decision to say, all right, when we see the priests, the Levites, and they take it and they go across Jordan, we're just going to stay here. What is the one thing that they have to, what is the last three words that they have to do in verses 3 of chapter 3 of Joshua? Go after it. Do you remember when Jesus Christ starts calling his disciples in the New Testament, what is basically the invitation that he gives to them? It's two words. Follow me. What is God telling them to do in Joshua chapter 3? Follow me. When you see that Ark of the Covenant, which represents God, which represents the power of God, which represents the promise of God, you go after it. Don't sit there. Now, in 2025, I know that we talked about the resolutions, but in actuality, what would we like for our churches? Not necessarily this church, but what would we like for our churches to do? We'd like for our churches to run after God, to seek what God would want us to do, to strive to do what God would have us to do, and to go after the promises of God. That is something, if our churches would do, it would be miraculous. And it says in verses 4, and there shall be a space between you and it. All right, now, and I know I've brought this up a lot when you're talking about God in the Old Testament, which is still God in the New Testament. But God of the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, and I've referenced this several times, what was one of the commandments that God tells Moses to do so that the children of Israel could not approach the holy mountain of God? Put up barriers. So next time you see police barriers or whatever, it's basically what it was. And he tells them, I have to be separated from them. And the reason that I have to be separated from the children of Israel is because they are not holy and I am holy. They can't come to me. And it tells us there has to be a space between you and it, the Ark of the Covenant. Again, the Ark of the Covenant has no power. The Ark of the Covenant is symbolic. It is what God, it is demonstrating instructions to them and them following instructions. God can give power to anything. What did he do in the book of Numbers with that donkey? I think it was of Naaman, of Balaam. Made it talk. All right? So with this, he tells these individuals, you have to put a space between you and it. And that Ark of the Covenant, look, it tells us back in verse 3, when you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, what does that Ark of the Covenant symbolic right there of? It is holy. It cannot be approached. It cannot be touched. It offers instructions. It offers promises. What is it a type of? God. All right? So in the book of Exodus, when God tells Moses, tell the children of Israel, don't come near me. Because if you come near me, you're going to die. You remember that famous story, I can't think of the guy's name right now, that when they were taking the Ark of the Covenant and the people stumble and he puts his hand kind of, I think it's Uriah or somebody, puts his hand on the Ark of the Covenant to keep it from falling, what happens? He dies. But what did God tell the people that you could not do? Don't touch the Ark of the Covenant. And he says, you have to put a space between me and you in verses 4. And it says, you cannot come near me, and for you shall not pass this way heretofore. Here's what he's saying. I go before you. You don't go before me. You cannot come close to me because you're unholy and I am holy. Do you know what happens on Calvary on that cross? That verse, yet there shall be a space between you and I, that space becomes closed up. There's no more space. Because of the cross, there is no more space. There's no more barriers. Because of the cross, there is no more, we cannot go to Mount Sinai, so to speak. Because the cross brings us in contact with a holy God. But here in verses 4, they cannot come in contact with that Ark of the Covenant, which is a type of God, because everything about that Ark is holy. And what that Ark also represents, not only the manna, not only the broken commandments, and not only the rod of Aaron that budded, but what that Ark also represented, what did it have on top of it? Had 2 cherubims with the wings extended, but what did their wings cover? The mercy seat. And what was put on top of that mercy seat? blood, okay? Basically saying blood is going to cover for the next 365 days the sins of Israel. So the Ark of the Covenant is a beautiful piece of furniture. And Joshua tells them something in verses 5. Joshua says unto the people, sanctify yourselves. Now, we've looked at this before, and there are two very important words in the Scriptures that I think every Christian should know and understand, or try our best to understand. It is the word justification, and it is the word sanctification. The word justification is, i.e., salvation. That's what it is. It's just a fancy word for salvation, all right? But after salvation, what takes place? Sanctification. Okay, you cannot mix those up. Sanctification cannot come before justification. It is justification. Once you're saved, God sets you apart, and then it is sanctification. That's what sanctification means. It means to be set apart. Okay? Joshua said unto the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. They have to separate themselves. And this is what is amazing about the children of Israel. They are exactly like us, aren't they? God tells them, I'm fixing to do some miraculous things for you. And this is what is amazing about these people. This is not going to be the first time they've seen these. All right? 40 years prior, some of them that was itty-bitties had heard about the crossing of the Red Sea. They have heard about the Moses and, the frogs coming out of the Nile and the water turning into the blood. And then they've heard about the God that they're serving doing all types of wonders. In the 40 years that they walked around in the wilderness, God did 5 wonders among them, and we've already talked about it. Their shoes didn't wear out. Clothes did not wear out. Got water from a rock. They had manna. And then they had quail. 5 things. For the last 40 years, what they have experienced is 5 things from God that was providing for them. Now, when you get to verses 5, he does not say, I'm going to do miracles. There is a difference between miracles and wonders. Amen. Wonders is amazement, and it is for a specific group of people. Have you noticed he does not say, I'm going to do these wonders not only for you, but for that lost bunch across the River Jordan? They're going to get to see these. They're going to know. These wonders are going to be just for among these certain people group for the children of Israel. So far in 5 verses before they've even crossed over to basically Jordan, God has told them to do 2 things. Follow me and sanctify yourself. Now we get to verses 6. Joshua spake unto the priests, saying, take up the ark of the covenant, pass over before the people. They took up the ark of the covenant, and they went before the people. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day. You can also, if you want to write in your scriptures, new beginning. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. This is a fresh start. This is, you're given a clean bill of health, so to speak. You're ready for a new day. It's a new beginning. You're going to see wonders. You're going to see signs. You're going to see all of these things. And he says, because this day, starting right now, everything that had happened to them prior is gone. Everything that they had in their past is dead. No more Egypt, no more Pharaoh, no more bondage. Everything now is absolutely brand new. Is that not a great word this day? Starting right now. Crystal and I was talking, and you can also do this, but God, in there. Right now, but God. I'm going to start doing things for you guys. And it says, this day I will begin to magnify thee in the sight of who? Is the world or Israel? I'm going to do things, and it's not going to be for those people on the outside. I'm going to do things, and it's just going to be for you. Whose faith does God have to increase before they can cross over into the promised land? Children of Israel. Does God have to increase our faith every day of our lives? Or are we just perfect with faith and we got all we need, don't need any more, cup runneth over? Each and every day our faith has to be increased. Is it something that is easy for us to adjust to? No. We like our lives in our cocoons, and we like it this way. We do not want to be put out doing things for God that is out of our safety zone and that is out of our comfort zone. That place, that pulpit is not my comfort zone. It's not. I've never met a pastor that would say, oh, the pulpit's it's not my comfort zone. God takes us out of our comfort zone. What God is going to do with the children of Israel, He's telling them, you're about to be taken out of your comfort zone. And now you're going to have to fully rely on me with 100% of faith. And He says, this day I will begin to magnify thee in the sight of Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses. What does Moses ask God when he says, if I go over and the Pharaoh asks, who sent me? You say who? I am that I am. That is the exact same wording. You can say, as I was with Moses, guess what? I'm the same God. And God can also, and if you want to write in your Bible, 2025 there, the same God that tells him this in Joshua chapter 3, verse 7, the same God that was with Moses and the same God that is with Joshua is the same God that is with us in 2025. Has He lost a step at all? Has He lost any of His power? No. And He says, and thou shalt command the priest. Here we go in verses 8. And thou shalt command the priest that bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the brink or to the very edge of the water of Jordan, stand there. Is it easy for us as Christians just to stand and let God move? You remember when it was Elijah? It was Elijah when after that on Mount Carmel he has that battle with those 750 prophets of Baal. He comes off the mountain, and Jezebel says, this time tomorrow I'm going to kill you. And Elijah runs to the mountain of God, and he's in that mountain, and he's in the cave, and all of a sudden there's an earthquake, and all of a sudden there's a wind, and all of a sudden there's fire, and there's storm. All these things are happening, and God's not in any of them, but what is He in? He's in a still small voice. And all Elijah had to do is stop and listen. Is it easy for us now in 2025 with everything happening around us? And Tristan mentioned it. I mean, less than 24 hours ago, a horrific event happened. Just a couple of states over. Horrific event. We've got so much stuff happening not only in the world. Forget about what's happening outside, across the, just in our country. Is it hard for us to stop and listen to God with everything that is happening? It's hard to do because we got so much stuff that is coming down on us in the world. It's hard just to stop on the edge of Jordan and stand there and wait for God to do something. What do we want to do? And I'm talking to myself, what do we want to do? Want to run right across Jordan, take care of it? God is telling them, you have to have, and it's something that I don't have. Patience. What you ever heard somebody say, don't ever pray, ask God for patience because He'll give it to you? We are a very impatient people. If you go to a resort, if you go wherever, what is the first thing you start looking for? Where's the Wi-Fi? So when I get on my phone, I don't have to wait 30 seconds. I need the Wi-Fi. I need it happening right now. Go to the drive-thru, and this is so, cliche, but go through the drive-thru and let that person on the speaker say, I'll be with you in a moment. What do you usually do? Just drive around. I ain't got time for this biscuit and gravy. Drive around. We are an impatient people, aren't we? It's hard for us to stand on the edge of Jordan and just wait for God, because this is what happens. And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, come hither, hear the words of the Lord your God, right on the brink of Jordan. For 40 years, they're right there. For 40 years, all they have to do is simply step across. But what is the one thing that they have to do? Hear the words of God. What keeps us, and I'm fixing to close, and after I close, I want all of us to come to the altar. We're going to have an altar prayer to kind of pray for our upcoming year. But with us, is it hard for us to stand still and listen to God? It's difficult, ain't it? What we're going to do now, we can go ahead and take us off Facebook. What we're going to do is I want us to come. I want us to gather around the altar. I didn't announce this Sunday. I